day friends, welcome to the lecture series on portfolio selection. So in the portfolio selection, in my previous lectures, I talked about two important theories, which is called Harry Markowitz theory and capital market theory, capital market line. So this capital market line, capital assets pricing model, I will be discussing today. So this capital assets pricing model is most widely used theory in the portfolio selection. By and large, people use this theory for finding out whether the security is being rightly priced, whether it is being efficiently priced, whether it is overpriced, whether it is underpriced. For this very purpose, this normally, which is capital assets pricing model, is also known as CAPM in the short form. So this CAPM is being used. So capital market theory is an extension of, I am not talking of capital assets pricing model, I am saying capital market theory, which we discussed in my previous lectures. So capital market theory is an extension of portfolio theory, which is given by Harry Markowitz, which explains how an investor selects its optimum portfolio in a capital market which has risky securities as well as risk-free securities. What it implies is, so in the capital market theory, we tries to find out a optimum portfolio consisting of risky securities and the risk-free securities, or we can call it risk-free assets. In the capital assets pricing model, it is an extension of this capital market theory. Means capital market theory is an extension of Harry Markowitz theory, and this capital assets pricing model is an extension of capital market theory. So this is broadly, if I say so, that it is a third theory, Harry Markowitz theory, capital market theory, and then capital market this capital market theory, and then capital assets pricing model. So it shows how risky assets are priced in efficient capital market. So this capital assets pricing model shows how risky assets are priced in efficient capital market. So CAPM has been developed by Sharpe, means who also developed this capital market theory, in 1964 and 1965 through, and in Mohsin in 1966 in independent research paper. In the financial journals, these three papers were being published, and on the base of this, capital assets pricing model has been developed. So it helps in prediction of expected return on a security portfolio or a portfolio. That is, how much return, whether the return is more or return is less, or what is the expected return which should be given, which should we expect. This we calculate through CAPM. This we find out through CAPM, capital assets pricing model. So expected return determined through CAPM can then be used to find out whether the security is earning more or less than the expected return. Means whether the security is overpriced or security is underpriced. As an investor, you should try to always invest in such securities which are underpriced. When I say underpriced, if it is giving a return which is higher than the capital assets pricing model, means which is higher than the expected return as per the CAPM, I will say the security is underpriced and one should invest in those securities. So from investment point of view, an investor should select securities which provide higher return than the one expected by CAPM. Means I will be telling you how what is the expected return through the CAPM formula or as per the CAPM theory, right? So there is a particular amount of return which investors should expect as per the CAPM model. If the return of security is greater than that, I will say it is an underpriced security and the return is higher, so one should invest in such securities, and vice versa. So the capital assets pricing model is an equilibrium model used to predict expected return on a security or a portfolio. It shows that there is a positive and linear relationship between expected return and systematic risk. Friends, as I was saying earlier also in my previous lecture, as far as the unsystematic risk is concerned, and time and again in previous lectures also I have told you many times that as far as the unsystematic risk is concerned, it can be eliminated by diversification. But if you have a well diversified portfolio, or if I call it, if you have a market portfolio, then unsystematic risk can be eliminated. What is left with is only systematic risk, right? So you see that there is a positive relationship between expected return and the systematic risk. Put it in other words, as the systematic risk will increase, right, your expected return as per the Kaplan model will also increase or should also increase, right? So higher is the systematic risk, which is being measured through beta, right? So higher is the expectation of expected return. So unsystematic risk, being diversifiable risk, is not rewarded and is not priced in the capital market. So before discussing the theory, let me talk of the assumptions of capital assets pricing model, right? And these assumptions are, friends, almost same that of the capital market theory. So, but this capital assets pricing model has the following assumptions. So let me talk it again about the assumptions of the capital assets pricing model. So all investors are risk averse. That is, what do you mean by risk averse? Every investor wants that the risk should be minimized, or put it this way, for a given level of risk, he want to increase, he want to maximize the return, or for a given level of return, the investor want to minimize the risk. This is called investment risk averse. That is, put it simple way, every investor wants to avoid the risk, right? Means if you say that when they avoid the risk, means without taking risk you cannot earn, you cannot, otherwise only you can invest in the risk-free securities. You are ready, an investor is ready to take the risk, providedly the investor is being compensated fully for the risk which the investor is taking, right? So as I said, that for a given level of risk, you want to maximize, an investor want to maximize the return, or for a given level of return, investor want to minimize the risk. This is called investor is risk averse. The second assumption is investors are mean variance optimizer. Mean variance means risk and return optimizer. Mean here means the return, and variance here means the risk. So investors are mean variance optimizer in the Markowitz sense, which implies that they make decisions solely on the basis of risk and return assessment. That is, the decision of the investor is based on risk and return. Securities are infinitely divisible. When I say securities are infinitely divisible, it means you can buy any number of securities or any number of buy and sell securities even in fractions. Smallest of the fraction. There was in the 80s, in the 70s in India, we used to call it market lot, and market lot used to be of 100 shares. Means if you have to buy or sell shares, it always used to be in the market lot of 100 or 50 shares. But nowadays in the demat system, depository system, you can buy and sell even one share, right? So you can buy 50 shares, you can buy 51 share, you can buy 52 share and sell also the same number. So the equities have become more divisible, but here it says even it can be bought and sold in fractions also, right? So the securities are perfectly infinitely divisible. The other assumption is there are no restriction on short selling. Short selling means if you find the securities are overpriced, without even owning a security, you can sell in the market, in the derivative market. So we presume that there is no restriction on the short selling. There is perfectly competitive in the capital market, thereby price is not affected by any single transaction. The way we say about the perfect competition, if you recollect in economics, that there are large number of buyers and large number of sellers which constitutes the market. No buyer and no seller is influential enough to affect the market price and the market supply. Similarly, here we are saying that as per the capital assets pricing model, we assume that no single buyer or no single seller is influential enough to affect the market price of the security, right? So thereby price is not affected by any single transaction. There are no transaction cost and taxes. We are presuming, like when I buy and sell shares, I pay some brokerage charges and I pay tax to the government. If supposing I am making some capital gain, I buy the share and sell the shares. So on selling, if I get some profit, I have to pay either the short-term capital gain or the long-term capital gain, as the case may be. If I am holding the shares for more than a year, I'll have to pay long-term capital gain tax. If I'm holding the share for less than a year, I'll have to pay short-term capital gain, right? So, but this theory assumes that there is no transaction cost and there is no taxes, right? So, no taxes and transaction cost. So, capital market is efficient and frictionless, right? So, other assumption is investor can borrow and lend unlimited amount at the same risk-free rate. You as an investor, you can borrow from the market an unlimited amount as a risk-free rate. Investors have identical homogeneous expectation about expected return, variance and covariance. Every investor has the same expectation about the return and the risk of the security. Again, friends, I mean practically it's difficult because every investor has its own risk profile, and on the basis of the risk profile, he has its own risk expectation and expected return. But this theory, this model has been developed on the assumption that investors have same expected return and variance and covariance. So, other is all investors hold efficiently diversified portfolio having no unsystematic risk. Thus, the only relevant risk is estimating return is systematic risk. Means the unsystematic risk, if it is a diversified portfolio, unsystematic risk has already been eliminated. So, the risk remaining is only systematic risk. So, on the basis of these assumptions, we have developed capital assets pricing model. So, what is the expected return of a portfolio or of a security? So, I will say expected return of I means ith security, any security which you are talking of, is equivalent to risk-free rate. What is risk-free rate? In my previous lecture sometime, I must have told you risk-free rate, just for understanding purposes, means supposing you deposit money in a post office. Post office, if I presume, gives you 5% rate of interest. I would say it's risk-free. In India, normally we say the post office deposits are almost risk-free. But friends, still I will say no investment in the world is risk-free. But just to understand purposes, we say if you invest money in the post office, it is a sovereign guarantee which the government of India give. So, post office deposits gives you a risk-free return. If you say 5% return, almost I can say it is a risk-free return. When you buy government bonds, 10-year government bonds, right, the yield which you get on these 10 years government bond, right, which is being issued by the RBI, I will say it is a risk-free rate of interest. So, this is called risk-free, right. So, expected return of a ith security is equal to risk-free return plus risk premium. What is risk premium? Expected return of the market minus risk-free return into beta of the security I, right. So, friends, what you are noticing here is that ERI is the expected return of the security, right. RF is equal to, RIF is equal to the risk-free rate of return. ERM is equal to the expected return of the market portfolio, right, and the beta systematic risk measurement of the security. So, beta is the measurement of systematic risk. So, in other words, expected return, friends, this is important, expected return is equal to risk-free rate plus market risk premium into systematic risk. Supposing you expect that the market should give you 11% return, right, and 5% is the risk-free rate. If I presume, it's just a simplistic example, if I am presuming that 5% is the risk-free rate and 11% is the market return. Investor expect that if he is investing in the stock market, he should get or she should get 11% return. So, 6%, the return of the market above the risk-free rate is called risk premium. So, this 6% is the market risk premium, because I am taking risk in the market. For taking risk, I should get 6% extra, right. So, risk-free rate plus market risk premium into systematic risk, which we measure through beta. So, expected return is equal to risk-free rate plus risk premium into beta into systematic risk. So, that is expected return is equal to risk-free rate plus risk premium for the security. We call it risk premium of this security. So, risk-free rate is nothing but reward for the time. if I'm sacrificing my money, I'm investing for 5 years, which is also called time value of money. I'm sacrificing, I'm investing in a post office deposit for a period of 5 years. So my sacrifice of my investment, or my sacrifice of, imparting money for 5 years is the reward for time, because I'm presuming that there is no risk in the post office deposits. So this reward, this 5% interest which I'll be getting every year, is the reward for time, plus reward for risk. Means when I'm investing in the market, and all of us know the market returns keeps on fluctuating. So this return, expected return, is equal to risk-free rate plus reward for the risk which I'm taking for while investing in the market or while investing in a market portfolio. So risk-free rate is the rate of return on a security which does not have any risk. Already explained. It is a compensation for time. It is also termed as time value of money. The market portfolio is efficiently diversified portfolio which contains all securities available in the market. So market risk premium is the excess of expected return on market over risk-free rate. Already explained. So market risk premium is the price per unit of the risk in capital market. When you invest in the capital market, there is an element of risk involved, so that is called market risk premium. So we are concerned only with systematic risk as measured by beta. So risk premium for the security is calculated as the product of market risk, means multiplication of market risk premium and systematic risk of a security, right? So what you do is you draw a capital market line. So while you draw the capital market line, how do you draw the capital market line? I will say that this capital market line, while drawing the capital market line, there are two things involved. One is risk-free rate, which I have already explained, RF, plus risk premium. Risk premium is equal to beta into expected return of market minus risk-free rate. So that is risk premium. On this basis of which you can find out that what is your expected return from the market. So this equation represents the risk and return relationship predicted by capital assets pricing model, which we call it CAPM. So expected return of a security depends on the following three factors: risk-free rate of return, right? Market risk premium or the market price for the risk, and the amount of systematic risk as indicated by beta. So there are three things. I have already given you example of this. Let me reiterate. Supposing you expect that if you are investing in a market which gives you 15% return, right? Your expectation is that you expect that, and how do you find out the expected return? It is on the basis of the historical return that is being provided by a security or by a portfolio. If I talk of a security, so I will say it is on the basis of the historical return of the security return that you expect a particular amount of return in a security, right? And as I said, supposing the 10-year government bonds which you invest, the yield which you get on the 10-year government bond is the risk-free rate. So this risk-free rate, I am presuming this risk-free rate is 5%, and you expect that 15% is the expected return which you should get while investing in the market. So first 5% plus your 15% minus 5%, that is 10%. That is the risk, we call it risk premium, right? So 10% multiplied by the beta. Supposing it is a low beta here, right? So it means if the beta is say 0.6, so I'll say the expected return should be 5%, which is risk free, plus 15 minus 5%, that is 10%, multiplied by the beta. And if beta is 0.6, so that is 10% into 0.6, that is come to 6%. So 6% is your risk premium, right? Plus 5%, which is called risk-free rate. So your expectation from the investing in that portfolio or investing in that securities should be equivalent to 11%. That is risk-free rate plus your risk premium, which is equivalent to, in case I am presuming an example, in case where your market return, market expected return is 15%, and your beta is 0.6, right? So risk premium is equal to 15% minus 5%, which is a risk-free rate, 10% multiplied by beta, which is 0.6, that comes to be 6%, 6% plus your risk-free rate 5%, that comes to be 11%. So your return, expected return from the security, or if I am presuming this for the market portfolio, sorry, this is for the portfolio, then I'll say 11% should be the expected return. So this market risk premium or the market price for risk, this is the reward an investor get for bearing 1 unit of market risk, that is systematic risk. So amount of systematic risk indicated by beta. So risk-free rate of return and the market risk premium will be common for all the securities. As far as the risk-free rate is concerned, for all the securities, the risk-free rate will remain. Market risk premium will remain same, right? Because what is market risk premium? The expected market return minus risk-free rate. So in our example, the example which I took was 6%, 10%, 15% expected market return minus risk-free rate 5%, so 10%. Now, depending on the beta of a security, right, your expected return will increase. If beta is high, the expected return will increase. If beta is low, expected return will decrease, right? So this you can see here. This is this is required rate of return. So first, systematic risk. The first I have drawn a line which is basically horizontal to the x-axis, which is risk-free rate. Risk-free return remains same for all the securities, and then I have drawn this line which is called the security market line, which is includes of the risk-free rate plus risk premium, and risk premium depends on this beta multiplied by RM minus RF, right? So as you are noticing here that market return on the y-axis, I am showing market return or the return of the security, and on the x-axis you are showing the beta. So this line, what you are noticing here is, this is a linear line. This line, the intercept is on the risk-free rate RF, right? That is minimum. When you invest in the market, minimum return which you should get is equivalent to risk-free return. And as your beta increases, in the same proportion in which the beta increases, your expected market return should also increase, right? So with each unit of change in the risk, your risk premium will increase, and this slope is showing this risk premium, and as the risk increases, so expected return also increases. So security market line is the graphical representation of capital assets pricing model. It shows a linear relationship between expected return and the beta factor indicating systematic risk. So this security market line, how you draw the security market, it is drawn in a risk and return space as a straight line with an intercept as the risk-free rate, right? What you saw here is that this is RF, is the risk-free, which I have drawn a horizontal to the x-axis. This is rate, the intercept is at risk-free rate, right? So it is drawn as the risk-free rate. It must be noted then when beta is 0, the return of investor gets equal to the risk-free rate. It passes through point M, which is called market portfolio. Here, when the market portfolio means if beta is equivalent to 1, in that case, your return on the security will also equivalent to your market return, right? So when beta is 0, the return of investor is equivalent to risk-free rate. It passes through M, which is called market portfolio, right? So in this way, friends, you can draw this security line. So portfolio composed of the following two assets: an assets that pays a risk-free return and a market portfolio that contains sum of every risky assets in the market, right? So this portfolio ER, right, beta risk-free rate is equal to RF, beta is 0, market portfolio beta is equivalent to 1. When beta is equivalent to 1, your return should be equal to market portfolio, whatever the return market portfolio. So in this way, you can find out whether the security is overpriced or security is underpriced. If the return is on the security market line, it means it is equivalent to, it is efficiently priced. If the portfolio or if the portfolio return of the security is above that, above the security market line, it means the security is underpriced. Security is giving you a higher return than the expected return as per the CAPM model, and investor should invest in the security. If the portfolio or the security is lower than the security market line, it means the return which you are getting is less than the return which is expected as per the security market line. So it means security is overpriced. So in this case, the investor should not invest in such securities. So securities which is on the SML are efficiently priced in the market. For such securities, actual return for the expected return is equivalent to the expected return based on CAPM. If a security lies before SML, right, then below the SML, then it is inefficiently priced, means overpriced in the market. Such a security provides an actual return which is lower than the expected return based on the CAPM, right. So a prospective investor should not invest in a securities. So where you should invest, which is a portfolio or a security which lies above the security market line. So if a security lies above security market line, then also it is, we call it inefficiently priced because it is underpriced in a market. We are presuming it is an efficient market. Such a security provides an actual return which is higher than the expected return based on CAPM. So a prospective investor should invest in such securities. So friends, this is about the CAPM model, and this model is very widely being used in the financial world, right. So in the investment world, this CAPM is widely being used for calculating or finding out whether the security is underpriced or whether the security is overpriced, right, and what is the expected return which the security or which the portfolio should provide. Thank you very much.